Anita Trujillo. On behalf of the entire staff of the Museum of Latin American Art in Long Beach, California, I'd like to welcome you to the 2020 Latino Comics Expo Worldwide. Today's program and the entire event would not be possible without the generous support of our sponsors. Here is a brief welcome from our presenting sponsor is Hyundai.
On behalf of Hyundai Motor America, we welcome you to the 2020 Latino Comic Expo. As part of our Hispanic Heritage Celebration, we are thrilled to sponsor this great event. We hope that you enjoy the amazing Latino talent that will be featured.
Okay. Additional support was provided by San Manuel Band of Mission Indians, the Josephine S. Gumbiner Foundation, the Robert Gumbiner Foundation, the City of Long Beach, and Arts Council of Long Beach. And now I'd like to introduce your host. José Cabrera is a Los Angeles-based artist whose art is influenced by Latino, African, and Asian cultures. His love for comics and his urban upbringing. He's active in the art community, participating in art shows with up-and-coming urban and comic artists, and is currently working on bilingual children's books. Thanks again for joining us today, and I hope you enjoy the program.
Hello, everyone. It's good to see everyone, or not see everyone, just see your names on the attendees list. So I'm going to introduce myself. I'm José Cabrera, or José Cabrera, and I'm going to be presenting today bookmaking, my process in how I go from ideas, sparks, to finished books, and all the way through publishing and maybe even making some royalties and money off of your books. I've been doing this now for about, wow, 15 years, and DIYing myself for about that long. I'll talk a little bit about historically how it's transformed, like the internet and technology has transformed the publishing business. So it's going to be really interesting to see that process of being, like shipping books all the way from China, right? And ordering 3,000 to, like POD now, like print on demand, which is like so cost saving. You invest $3,000, right, back then to get like 1,000 or 1,500 books, and they're all in your garage because you're not like John Grisham or someone, right? But that being said, I want to start going through that process, and I think we're going to have the questions are going to be at the end. So I'm going to share the screen now, and I'm going to show you one of my books. This book that I'm going to share with you, right? So I'm going to start from a book that is ready to publish, right? And I'm actually going to start the publishing with you guys. I'm actually going to possibly not publish, but just start that process, right? So that you can see how you fill out the form, how you get your ISBN number, all that stuff. But let's start with the beginning of it. I'm going to show you. I'm going to work backwards. I'm going to show you an actual book that's been produced. And then from there I'll work backwards in how I came up with that idea. So the books that I'm going to be sharing with you are A Bunny and Idea. It's a series that I came up with actually with my daughter, of all people. So bear with me as I go through and let's see, this is it. All right. Okay. Can y'all see that? I guess I'm just going to have to trust that y'all can see that. So let's see. I'm going to go from the beginning. Excuse me while I should have this ready. So this book is the 5th book in my Bunny and Ardilla series, and it's about a bunny and a squirrel, or an ardilla. And these books are bilingual, right? So it's a bilingual book, and the idea for this book came with my daughter. My daughter is now going to be 8 in November. And she was about maybe 2 or 3 when we came up with this idea, I think 3 years old. And actually, yeah, she was about 3. And she was verbal. And I remember my wife's birthday was coming up, and we had to come up with a card, right? So I said, Kiara, what can we come up with? And she says, why don't we do it in her cute little 3-year-old voice? Why don't we do a bunny and a squirrel? You know, and I was like, okay. So we started sketching out a squirrel, a little story, and it was fun. And that's where it was born, basically, Bunny and Ardilla. And the reason why I came up with bilingual books is because I wanted to read to my daughter in Espanol. And there were no books. I mean, obviously there were bilingual books, but they were translated, like Curious George, right? All this, but and they were translated into that, but nothing that was originally like the concept that it was originally like creative just to be bilingual books, right? So these weren't written; they were written in English, but they were with the idea of it being in Spanish, right, at the same time, and published in both languages at the very same time. So I figured, like, am I going to do a chapter book and a lot of text, and make the book back and forth? So I decided to do a children's book with very simple language. At that time, my daughter was 3, 4. So I tried to make it really simple. Um, so we went ahead and I developed it, and I have, like I say, I'll show you the series of the books that I have. I have 5 right now. This is the 5th installment. So I'll go through this book with you so you can see the book, and I'll read it through, right? I'll see. I think I have enough time here. And they're very short. They're 24 pages, full color. And I'll talk a little bit about color too, as opposed to printing in black and white and color, and why there's a cost difference when you're publishing, and you have to think about these things before you plan. If you're like, I'm going to do this big, thick, color graphic novel, and then you go and you're trying to publish through publisher or yourself, if you're doing it yourself, it's going to be very expensive, right? And I'll let you know how you can cut corners, right? But still have a good product. So here we have the kind of cover, the internal cover page, I'm playful with stuff, like I threw tar all over the place because this is about the La Brea tar pits, and again, a lot of the stories that are created are coming from my surroundings. Like, so we live near the tar pits, right? In Miracle Mound, we would go there every day, and that's where we got the idea for Bunny and Ardilla. There was all these squirrels. We saw the bunnies at night, right? But very few during the daytime. And we would always get stuck with tar when we would come home, right? So here you have Bunny and Ardilla, and this is like what's called a spot illustration for the intro. So I'd have a spot illustration in there so that you would get that idea of being kind of introducing the characters and what's going on, what the story might be about, like what's going on here, right? Here's the copyright page, and here I use another spot illustration to kind of show a little bit of like what's going on, like a little fun little gloop, right? And every single book has their own little kind of spot illustration in this section. And I always do original illustrations for each of those spot illustrations because I could grab something from the actual illustrations of the actual book, but I'd rather do, like I pay attention to details. So I think that's very important. And when you're producing a book, you want to have a copyright page here. Because you want to make sure, like, obviously you don't want your property being, printed all over the place, and you need this in there to make sure that if someone does kind of take your book, right, and print it all over the place, that you can take legal recourse. But hopefully you never have to. I've never had to. And it's flattery, right, that someone can come and like look at your book. Let's go with the story. So this is the first page, the opening page. And you're introducing the characters, and Bunny is always kind of like this very kind of, she's the creative, right? She's very creative. She's always on top of it, and she's kind of like my daughter, really. She's, in essence, she's like part of my daughter's personality, very playful, very boisterous. Adia, wake up! Today's the day we go see the dinosaurs," said Bunny, right? And it's translated in Spanish. I'm not going to read the Spanish part. Maybe I will. "Ardilla, despiértate. Hoy es el día que vamos a ver los dinosaurios," dijo Bunny. And here, I apologize, I didn't get the spread full in Adobe Acrobat, so the pages are cut in half. And that's important too, because that's the way I send it to the printers, right? So when the printer gets it, they want those pages separated, right? You can't send them the whole panel, right? Only with the cover, and I'll show you later how the cover is set up, okay? So here you have the double, this is a double page spread, and I like to kind of like have double page spreads. They're fun to see when you open up that book, right? So here Bunny is listening to Ardilla. Ardilla is this very kind of like always on his soapbox, teaching people things, and you kind of get like, oh, he's so grating, right? But he's smart, but he's grating, and he's full of facts, but very little wisdom, right? Bunny, there were no dinosaurs during the Ice Age. They weren't equipped for the cold," said Ardilla. Bunny, No hubo dinosaurios durante la era del hielo. No estaban equipados para el frío, dijo Ardilla. Another page spread, and this is the one that me and my daughter saw all the time. If you've ever been to the tar pits, you can see the mother and the and the mother's the one that's actually in the tar, right? And it's the father that's outside. A lot of people think that the father is the one that's in the water, but it's actually the female, and the child, the little baby, is crying out. And there's a fence, but I took the fence out because I thought it would be easier to illustrate without the fence around it. And that's actually when mammoths walked on Wilshire, and I kind of pulled that from the signs there, and there is tar everywhere. You got to be careful. I'm not going to read everything because there's a lot to go over in the time we have, because I really want to get you to the actual creative process, the production process, and the publishing process, right? Again, you can see by the character. I'm not doing a workshop on character development and facial expressions, but you can kind of see how I develop these characters, and I'll talk a little bit about how with these characters I had help, right? Like, I don't know if you guys went to Rody Montijo's presentation, his book reading on Amazing Girl. Rody's a really good friend of mine, and he helps me. I consult with him, and he's usually giving me notes and tips, and he helped me with the character development, showing me how to create the bodies and how to really use more facial expressions, right? So, and I know this guy, right? He's a really good friend of mine. I love him dearly. And so I have him as an advisor and as someone who helps me look at the books, and help shape the story. And he has great rhythm. So here you can see Ardilla kind of like a bit condescending on the soapbox, trying to give a lesson as always, and Bunny's kind of like, oh Lord, here we go again, right? Bunny runs off, like kind of dismissing him, and she's looking at what's the action on the other side, right? And this is also with development, like you're bringing the story along by pointing, right? Like moving it along, and that's something that I learned from Rody. Another person that I really admire and I really like is Mo Willems, Piggy and Elephant series. Don't let the pigeon drive the bus series also. Amazing storytelling, and I pull from him, absolutely. Again, you'll see that my backgrounds are very blank, right? Kind of a la Mo Willems. And here, double page spread, right? God, what's going on, right? Who got stuck? Oh, guess who? Right? The know-it-all got stuck. And here I'll talk a little bit about typography too, a lettering. Here, instead of just putting the lettering at the top, I decided to make the lettering part of the actual illustration, right? That's kind of what Mo Willems, I'm pulling that from Mo Willems, and also from Rody. Rody does that a lot. And here again, the action, it's building up, right? Hold on 1 second, grunted Bunny. Espera un segundo, gruñó Bunny, right? And then you see another character come in. So you'll see characters as the plot thickens, characters start to join the fray. Here you go. Someone's trying to save the day. The first attempt failed. Now here's a second attempt. Don't worry, amigos. I'll get you out, shouted Chango. No se preocupen, amigos. Lo sacaré, gritó Chango. Right? Getting those letters in there, right? Showing the action, the tension. Boom, didn't work. Then we get, as they're contemplating their next move, right? Did I mention that when animals got stuck, they become easy dinner for saber-toothed cats? Trembled Ardilla. Then another character comes into the fray, again, building, the plot is thickening. What's going on? Are they going to be able to get out of this tar? You guys seem to be in a sticky situation, said Greenie. Ustedes parecen estar en una situación pegajoso, dijo Greenie. Again, when you're building, a lot of the stories as I'm building them, they start with a problem and then end with a solution, right? And hopefully a pacifico, like a peaceful solution, or something that's creative in how to solve the problem as the problem builds. Grrr, right? And I'll break later. I'm gonna in the creative process, actually in the production process, I'll break this page down in pencils, inks, and color, right, and typography. Flop, and then you get another character coming in, the birdie. Right? Very simple. Again, this is for children, right? This is for little eyes, right? And they're just really super interested um, in how these characters come in colorful. I like working a lot with colors. Colors are important for me. Um, hey guys, I see that you're in a pickle. I'll use a few olives to get you out, said Birdie. Right? Hola chicos, veo que están en apuros. Usaré aceitunas para sacarlos, dijo Birdie. So they're coming up and they're like, oh, right. Get out, right? They don't believe that this little bird can help them out, right? What is that little bird gonna do after Greenie, the big green bear, couldn't do anything about it, right? But here we go, right? Small things come in, powerful things come in small packages. So there you see a little bit of a zoom in, right, on the olive oil, right? And then, sorry that we doubted you, Birdie. So the conclusion is like you doubt something, right? And the solution was small, right? Came very small, right? And kind of like a lesson, a moral to the stories. And a lot of the stories have to do with that kind of like problems that get solved, right? In unexpected ways, right? And kind of like a little bit of a surprise at the end. Very simple stories. I'm not here going to win an Academy or a Caldecott, right? But I'm here creating things that I really, really want to enjoy. Maybe I do enough of these and I get a Caldecott, right? Or a Seuss or whatever award. But I don't do it for the awards. I do it more for one was for my daughter and to make bilingual books more accessible to people. Um, all right, so that's the end of the book, and then that's the back cover, like I showed. Again, with the back cover and the front cover, right? For me, it's a lot of fun to come up with these spot illustrations, right? I do a lot of the illustrations. I do the cover and the back cover after I've done the meat, the middle of the book, the interiors. And I'm inspired, and I look through the books, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun. So I had two separate processes with those, right? And you can see here the other books that I've done already. I'm gonna stop share screen here and go back to another screen that I like to share with y'all. Hold on a second. I'll be right back. So I'm gonna go into the bookmaking of this. 1 second, guys. As I move along. Okay, so here we're going to talk a little bit about, I'm going to present with you some of the bookmaking components of all this, right? So like, what are some of the things that you can expect when you're doing it? So I like breaking it up into 3 parts, all right? So these are the books. I wanted to show you all the books that I've over the years. I think the first one I published in 2015 or 16, Hello, and then Plant a Seed, The Big Acorn, Autumn Surprise, and the final one is La Brea, Tar Pits, right? Pozos de la Brea. And like I said, the 5th book, I'm gonna go through the publishing part of it so that you guys can see how I publish. Never before seen, first time ever. And I thought it would be fun to kind of take you guys through that step. Hopefully it'll work. So these are all the books that I've done so far with this series, and I have another book, a 6th book in the works right now, called Ardilla Ruins Christmas. So hopefully I'll get my act together and have it ready for Christmas. So the creative process, right? The creative process for everyone can be a tough one, right? Like coming up with an idea. You have an idea that you've been wanting to do, and I've had that with people who are like, I have an idea, I need help, right? I'm lucky because I can illustrate, I can write, I can produce. I was before I started doing this. Again, this is not my full-time job. I want to let you guys know that, right? Because if you're going into this expecting I'm going to live off of this, you might be stressed out, depressed, anxious. You might have to go to therapy because it's not going to happen right off the bat, right? It's rare that you'll be a Mo Willems or a Dr. Seuss, right? So what I recommend is having a backup job, right? I have a job, a full-time job, which I love. And I'm lucky that way that I can support this, right? Like I'm not waiting for like the big money to roll in. It'd be nice, right, to have some royalties, and they do, and I'll show you that royalties do start to come in. I get a royalty check every month for the work that I do. Again, it's not like I'm living off of like rich, but it's nice, like groceries or something, right? And then eventually you keep building, you keep building, and then it'll hit. And I'm feeling like right now, we'll talk a little bit about the pitfalls and things that I'm stuck at also, right? Because I'm not going to sell you that I'm like this published, big dude, but it's honest, and I can see the way to getting there. So the creative process, right? And below, if you want to take down any of my hashtags or any of my handles, websites, you can do that throughout, and check out my stuff. So let's see here. So the creative process. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the creative process and how I start off a story. So the stories usually will start with an idea, right? So I have already a bucket, right? The bunny and idea. So I have a series. So that already is kind of like an idea. Like you might have a brand new idea, right? You might have like, Gerald and the bike, right? Or Sam and his iPhone, right? And the whole new idea that you want to start off, right? So that could be coming up with a story. I have a bucket, bunny, and idea. I have a formula, so I can kind of set up what's going to happen. There's going to be, interaction between the characters, right? Then there's going to be a problem, right? And there's going to be a solution to the problem at the end. Right? And then along the way, all this kind of transpires. And then I've gotten into a point where I kind of have a rhythm, right? If I have other characters being introduced, how I introduce them, the pacing of that, right? The direction, right? You saw Bunny before pointing and going and showing, that the action is going in a certain direction, right? So here I'll show you my process. So I write it out first, just in a Microsoft Word document. Then I do tables. The tables here are for me to kind of show the pages. So I do 24 pages, and I do that purposefully, because I just want to keep it tight, right? Sometimes I'm like, oh, but I want to expand it. But this is for me good discipline and good form, to keep it within 24 pages, and see what I can do within that story. Sometimes I've decided I've thought about maybe going 32 pages, maybe making it 48 pages, a longer story. But I like what I come up with, right, with these restrictions, right? And what happens for me is that it also gives me the opportunity to make it cheaper to print, right? Because every color, black and white is cheaper to print, not but hands down, right? But kids, yeah, you could do black and white, but kids are gonna want, color, right? So I've stuck to 24 pages, and again, I'll tell you why it's cost prohibitive in certain aspects, but not too much, right? I'm talking about if you're going to be doing a lot of printing and a lot of books, at some point, your first book, you're gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna go all out. I'm gonna spend the money, right? But in the end, you gotta budget things, and you gotta be like, okay, I gotta make sure that I'm not spending $6-7 on a book, right? And then selling it for this much, right? So you got to be cost prohibitive, and look, when you pricing your books, you got to understand that you're pricing your art, right? Your creative and your worth. It's not about like, oh, it cost me this much. I feel like I'm asking for too much. You ask for what you ask for, because it is about your creativity and the time you put into it, and that's what I'm charging for, right? And I'll be very transparent about how much it costs and how much I sell it for, right? Because if you're going to be publishing, you have to do that. You have to be somewhat business minded. So here, I break up. So when I write my writing part of this, so I come up with the story. So I'm writing up the story, and let me zoom in here real quick. So here I have the panels, right? But I write it out more, right? I flesh it out. I'll have notes in there that help me with the illustrations. So this is the first part before I go into the storyboarding part, right? Or the sketch, the thumbnails. So here I'll write it out first in a long format. I didn't show that part. And then I start breaking it apart. My mind starts saying like, okay, so this part of the story, where does it go? What page? How do I write that? How do I decide that they're both in bed? Kind of like, Bunny waking up and going like, oh, let's go to the museum today, right? So I'm looking at that and I'm saying, let's put that on the first opening page, right? Introducing, both characters. Dia's waking up and the eye is open, if you remember that part. But here I write down, Bunny woke up excited to go to the tar pits. I can't wait to go see the dinosaurs. Ardea was slowly getting up and stretching and rubbing his eyes. The text is not complete. It's not exactly what the way it ends up. But these, like I said, these are notes, and I extract text from here. 4 and 5, I leave this blank because this is a double page spread, right? When you see that double page spread, big thought bubble with dinosaur in coat shivering with woolly saber saying, you're in the wrong Time Buddy, right? I wrote that in, but that never made it into the actual final, right? And you'll see later how this is broken up in the actual thumbnails. I'm not going to go through all of this. Oops. I'm not going to go through all of this, but it will show you a little bit about how I break it up. And it really is helpful when I'm going to go sketch. So I know what to draw, right? Here, God, this is what double page spread also that you saw before. So let me go back. I want to make sure that everyone is being able to see the screen. So this is the storyboards, right? Let me double check if everything in the chat, if everybody's being able to see. Can I ask someone to just put in, can y'all see what's going on as we move through this? I'm hoping that I'm not leaving anybody behind. Great. Okay, good, good. Fantastico. Good, good, good. So let's go back to share screen. I'm going to go back to that screen again. So here are the storyboards, right? So this is how I'm fleshing this out. And the cover, like I said, I don't have an idea for the cover yet. You already saw the cover, but I don't have an idea yet. So I'm thinking more about the interior. So I'll show you a little bit about that process. Right in here, you see that I have, when I start, and I'm actually doing this, I'll do it on paper, right? But in here, I decided to do it on Procreate on my iPad, which is easy and it's there stored. I'm not having all these papers everywhere or my notebooks. I know that Rody works on paper all the time. And sometimes I am, if I'm traveling and I don't have my iPad, I'll sketch it out on paper. But here I'm showing you how I'd use it on Procreate. I have a big screen and I'll just do it all on one page. So here you have the title page. I don't know what I'm going to do for the title page. There's my little kind of copyright dedication page with the gloop. I don't know. I didn't know it was going to be a gloop, a little tar gloop. And you can see here Bunny and Ardilla in that first scene, right? That little sketch there. Right? And then you can see it developing, and I'm just sketching out, right? The saber tooth, that's a double page spread, Bunny giving a lecture. And you can start seeing the action going. And a lot of these, right? As you can see, they start getting a little bit better as I'm moving through. I start adding more detail, right? I just get really into it, right? And here, and what happens is some of these are good enough that I'll just pull from them, right? And then stretch them out and then ink them, right? Some of them I have to refine the sketches, and I'll talk a little bit about refining sketches. But anyway, I have everything laid out, right? This is coming from my notes, right? All of this is laid out. All the pages, I number them to make sure that those are the pages, how they're turning. This is how it's going to look as a spread. So you see the double page right there. So those are spreads, right? And some spreads are all connected. This is one long piece of art. These are two different pieces of art. And you'll see where this is a long one piece of art right here, right? And again, the story goes, as you saw before in the final finished product, these are all the pieces. And I really like the process here. Right? I really like the process. When wanting to make sure that all the art stays the same, right? It doesn't change too much. So here they were sitting. So what I did here, right? I just copy and pasted, right? The sketches here to change some of the stuff. So I would erase and Procreate the gestures instead of the tongue, right? I changed the faces but the outline, most of it stays the same, right? And then the inking is, all the inking is different on all of them. But for the sketches, I just kind of copy and pasted so I made sure they were in the same place. Right? There's a little cheats that you can do. This one again, same copy and paste here. I had to change the face and erase some parts, but the body's in the same place. Because one of the things that Rody showed me is like, you don't want to make the pages jump too much, right? You want to make sure that there's a steady kind of rhythm. Because if you throw like if I had these, sorry, I'm pointing at the screen like you see, but if I had this too off or too something, it can throw the reader off and it can be a little bit disorienting. So you want to make sure you're keeping a nice kind of rhythm going along, right? And you can see here some of the images from before, right? So I'm going to show you one. I'm just going to pull one panel, right? I'm going to pull, which panel I'm going to pull? I'm going to pull the GUR, right? Where right here. where they're pulling, right? I don't have the lettering in there yet, but you're going to see the lettering as I start to play. I didn't have it. I wasn't thinking that I was going to make these big letters around the characters, but I thought it was more fun and more visually appealing than just having the images like that. So we'll go on to the next page. So I'm the creative process. So before you go into start inking and start to because the inking for me is part of the production process, right? Because you want to get the story down, you want to get the scene, you want to get all the storyboards right before you start filming, right? Before you start inking and producing it. So I call this still part of the creative process. So the feedback, right? So this is where I say, don't be afraid to ask for feedback, right? Like you might hit me up, right? You might say like, Jose, would you look at something with me, or can you look at this, right? Give me a quick kind of like run through and just some feedback. I'd be happy to. But if like 1,000 of you do it, you know, then I'm just like, I don't know. That would be crazy. But I love to give feedback, and I want to pay it forward. Rody was really kind to me. And I always ask him like before I go and ink, and he says, is the story good enough? And he's like, yeah, you can change this. I don't feel this part is moving fast enough, right? So he'll help me with that. And don't be afraid, right? Your story will be better for it. Like you can't be an island. Like I said, like I always thought I could do it all and just publish it. And I saw some in the earlier work. I saw some things where I was like, oh, I wish I had, you know, like the hello one, the yellow one, the first one. Man, I did like 3 or 4. I even published it, and I was like, I unpublished it and put it back up because I was like, oh man, this is all kinds of wrong. I should have asked for help in the beginning, right? And I wish I had asked for more help. So production, right? So the production part of this, I think, is very important, right? Because I think this is when you feel comfortable with the story, you feel like it's moving in the right direction, the storyboards are solid, right? I felt that the storyboards were solid, right? Like solid enough that even in my thumbnails, I felt like, oh, I like the way this looks. I'm good. I'm just gonna pull from here and ink these, right? So this next piece you'll see here was actually right straight from the thumbnails, right? I pulled it and I was like, this is pretty solid. I refined the sketch. I went in and started refining it and making the fingers a little bit more solid, making sure that the tar, all this stuff's just like going over it. And like I said, this is pretty solid. You know, so I felt like, hey, I've gotten good enough that I can, you know, when I do my little thumbnails, that they're robust enough so that I can work off of them. So I'm refining the sketch, putting some effort, erasing here and there, and getting in there. Let's see if I can go in a little bit more. And you can see it's a little blurry because I blew it up. But then I start inking. Inking is one of my favorite things to do. I love inking. I love the thick and thins, right? If you're, again, we're not here on technique, but if you're, I'll throw in some technique. If you're really wanting the ink to pop off or the art to pop off, consider, right, depending on what level of you know skills you have, but consider thick and thin, like really varying the line, right? And you know, not too much, not too little, but just varying it so that you can really start to get the eye to kind of really be attracted to the piece, right? So refining the sketch, then the inking part, right? So the inking part, right? Here you got, you know, I'm not shy about using blacks and solids right in there, and getting all those pieces going in there. And I kept the underlaying there, the underlaying blue line, so you can see how I'm inking, the decisions that I'm making, right, where I'm placing the ink. And I'm doing this with the Procreate, the pen. It's again, the technology has gotten really good, and you can do, you know, things that you can't even interpret. You think, oh, was that pencil or was that Procreate? It saves me time, but like I said, once in a while, I have to keep myself honest and draw on paper, which I do a lot. So inking is an important part. The next part is obviously coloring, right? Again, I like using different colors. Rody was really telling me, like, can you do that? You know, he was asking me if I could do Ardilla in a different color than brown, than typical squirrel color, Ardilla color. And I went through it, and I felt it was trying too hard. So with the other characters, I added the color, like with the bear, instead of a brown bear, it was a green bear. The chimp or the monkey, I decided to do in purple, right, rather than typical animal colors. Typesetting, again, typesetting doesn't have to be just the type that you put in there. You want to be, I think if you really want to stand out, you really want to invest in good typesetting, right? Good, like look at the fonts you're going to use. If you want to draw the fonts, I drew these fonts, right? And again, it's very simple, GER, right? It's international, right? Everyone understands GER, right? So you want to make sure that typesetting is an important part, right? Okay, I want to get to this because I see the time and I want to make sure that we can have a couple of questions at the end. So the cover design is also part of the production part, right? And here, like I said, I had a lot of fun doing the cover. I added in it, I added the read to your kids Español Inglés, right? The bilingual looks, and I have the title both in English and in Spanish. I thought that was really important to, be clear, right? I added this on the fourth and fifth book, I believe. But I think it's important for your book to stand out and to be really clear about what your book is doing, right? And what is it intends to do. In the back, I write a little blurb back here about what the adventures are about. Bunny and Ardilla find themselves in a sticky mess when they visit the La Brea tar pits. Bunny and Ardilla se encuentran en un lugar pegajoso cuando visitan los pozos de La Brea. Let's see. Okay, so that for production, that's really important, right? So those are the main tenets in production, right? When you're producing, and I could go into what types of programs and all that stuff, but for with time, I mean this could be a 2-hour presentation or even a 3-hour presentation if we wanted to break it down, like what programs am I using here? I'm using Photoshop and Procreate, right? I go back and forth, and Photoshop gives you more. It's a little bit more powerful than Procreate, but Procreate is getting better. And then setting up the pages, the trim sizes, all that stuff. I'm not going to get into all of that, but you want to consider that when you're creating all this stuff, and make sure you're getting the templates from, let's say, Amazon or wherever you're going to be printing and publishing. So the third part of this process is edit. Review the hell out of the book and ask at least 3 people to read it, right? At least, right? Because there will be mistakes. Like there's a mistake in the first book, and this is not like War and Peace. We're talking about like, I'm like, oh Lord, and I had people read it. It happens. So you want to make sure you edit the hell out of it before you publish, right? But once you get that and you feel comfortable and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna press the button, boom, right? So publish it. Let's publish this damn thing, right? So I'm going to go through the publishing part about it and how I use the publishing. Like there's so many avenues to go publishing. I published to Kindle Direct Publishing, and it's a company, Amazon. I don't know if you guys are fans of Amazon. I'm mixed about Amazon. I'm not going to get into the politics of Amazon, but they have a really good, easy, accessible way of using their publishing services, and I find it to be helpful, right? And like I said, they have a marketing and distribution, a light one, mind you, right? You have to pay for a little, but I haven't paid for it yet. And it still gets seen. It still gets people still buying them, right? I get people from, England buying. I have someone from Thailand buy my books. And you start to connect to a fan base. Again, once I start adding more marketing and putting more money and time into it, then I think it'll pick up more, right? Doing this right now is going to possibly help, right? By sales, right? So that's important. Let's see. So I'm going to stop share and I'm going to go back and share another screen right now. So give me 1 second while I go to the publishing page where we're hopefully going to get a chance to publish. I'm going to go through it quickly because I don't think, let's see, here we go. So I'm going to show you my dashboard, okay, real quick. And the books that I published so far through Kindle publishing. Share screen. Let's see, here it is. Okay, so this page right here, as you can see here in the corner, Kindle Direct Publishing. So in order for you guys to get access, you're gonna have to open up an account, right? If you have, you don't have to have Amazon or anything like that, Amazon Prime, but you do have to, if you wanna publish on there, you have to kind of get vetted, right? And it's pretty easy. I got vetted, and I've been publishing with them since 2011. And so I've been on it for quite a while. So these are my books that I have on here so far. And they go in the order of when you publish them, or when you republish them. Some of them I found edits. I unpublish and then republish again, and that's fine. You could do that. So this is the last book that I did, was Autumn Surprise. I haven't published this book yet. I was waiting for you guys. Again, we might not get through the whole thing, but I'll start the process. You can see how that looks. So these are all the books that I have here, right? The dinosaur book is like my biggest seller. People want dinosaurs, and the bilingual book, it does well. It does well. And that's another series that I have, the dinosaur alphabet. Those are the learning series. So like my bilingual books really are diverse. I have two series. I have the learning series, dinosaur books, animal alphabet, and arthropods. And then I have the Bunny and Adia series. And I just wanted to show you, for the bookmaking purposes, the Bunny and Adia. Introduction to arthropods, that's also pretty good, but the dinosaur just kills it. Let's see. And then I have other books here from early on. My Crying Macho Man days, which I've kind of put on the shelf for now. But those are the books that I've published so far. And like I said, I get royalties every month from them coming in, a percentage. And it works well. I don't have to do a thing. I kind of look at what's going on, and they let me know what's happening. So let's say, so if I want to create a book, right, a new book, I'll hit paperback over here, right? Create a new title. Very easy. It was a little more difficult before, but they've streamlined the process. So paperback, right? So here we have, right, the book title. And then again, I can go back and edit this stuff. I'm not going to possibly publish today, but I will go through the process, right? So you go in, and they want to get you the paperback details, right? So the book title would be, let's say La Brea Tar Pits. And it's okay if I get it wrong. Subtitle, I don't have one. Series name, Bunny and Ardilla. Series number 5. Issue number 5. Author, that'd be me. Cabrera. So on and so forth, right? I'm not going to go through all of this stuff here because that would go crazy. But you can see the process, description of the book, what will appear in the book on Amazon details, publishing rights. I own the copyright, right? You got to make sure you click that one because you don't want it to be the public domain, because then your book would be given to someone. Choose the categories. They give you categories that you can choose from. So mine is fiction, right? Action adventure. I don't know if it's action adventure, right? So I put general. And you can, like I said, you can, I'm saving these now and I can go change them later, right? Does this have adult content? No, right? And save and continue, saving. And then it goes into the next steps, right? We found an issue on the earlier title setup. Please go back and review your information and save. Okay, so I missed the step. They're particular on this, right? What's the part that they're showing? They usually show you, right? They want more details, right? And I'm not going to be able to save all this, so I'm going to save it as a draft, right? But it's pretty self-explanatory, right? How you go through all these steps, and again, this is not published yet, right? Like I said, I'm not going to be publishing today, but it shows you step by step how to move through it. You just got to set up the account, right? Get in there, and everything you have, they give you instructions on how to do it, how to get the templates for the book sizes. They give you book sizes, what kind of book size you want to find, what cover, what's the you want to do matte or shiny, all that stuff. And it's really fun. It's easy to use, right? So you have a one-stop shop. This is the way I do the DIY. I love to get Scholastic on. I like Rhodey's like, you should go to Scholastic, right? And do that. But eventually I'll get the cojones to go and hit up Scholastic, and then but I don't want to, like, it's scary because I'm like, are they going to own anything? They're going to take all the rights to it. Scholastic is huge, right? I mean, they published Harry Potter, right? So they're ginormous. But I think their bilingual department might be attracted to this work, I've been told. Anyway, that's the end of my presentation. Oh, another thing that you want to have is, so you have these books, right? You got to make sure you have a website that people can land on and see what the books are about, right? So here I have a website that you can go to, Up and Over, and just study and look at it, right? Up and Over, and I have really interesting ways. Oh, I'm wondering if y'all can see that. Let me make sure I go back, stop share screen, because I know sometimes it gets trippy about it. Here we go. So up and over, right? So you want to have a website, right, that kind of shows what your books are all about, right? So here I have this website. I also have another website, josecabrera.com, for my illustrations and my illos. If you guys follow me or know my work, you know that I do illustrative work. I know time is running down, but just make sure you have a website that you can house your product, your own website. I pay for this. I use Wix, a pro plan. It costs some money, but it's worth it, right? And if they hit buy it, it'll take you straight to the Amazon page where they can buy it, and all you have to do is just get that royalty. Okay. Anyway, I am going to stop sharing. I'm gonna field some questions and see what people are interested in talking about in these last 12 minutes that we have. So am I looking at the questions? How does this work?
Jose, you can find the questions in the chat box.
I'm looking at them. So I'm trying to figure out, like, so.
One just came in at the very bottom.
Okay. And this is from Antonio. I know Antonio. What's up, Antonio? Oh, this Antonio is a childhood friend of mine. If I'm right. Right, Antonio? We go way back. We go way back. Let's see. So you're asking, you touched a bit, share your knowledge. You touched a bit on this. Can you go through the process with Kindle DP and also start over, submit with a large publisher? Yeah, that's a good question, Antonio. I don't know what that looks like. If let's say I'm publishing and then Scholastic says, like, what are you doing? You're publishing. I don't know that question. So I'm hoping it's not a big problem. If they say, hey, take it down and we'll publish you, I'll be like, yeah, just show me the money. You know, like how much for taking it down, right? I'd rather go that route than trying to push and peddle my books, right? Because if they're saying, yeah, we'll give you $1 for every book, but they sell 100,000 books, you do the math, right? It's pretty good. What other questions are there? Alexis, thank you for sharing your work. How long does it generally take for the overall process from beginning to getting it published? It depends. It depends on the time you have. I'm raising a kid, right, and all this stuff. So it just depends on the time you have. If I were just like focused on this, I think I can get a book out because I have a process and a system already, and discipline. I talked a little bit about discipline. You got to be disciplined. Sometimes I don't want to show up. I'm like, oh, but I get up, get my coffee, have my pages out, and I'm just like, but it can take me anywhere from a month to 2 months, right? If I'm fast, sometimes it can take me 6 months, right? Because I'm just dwelling and I'm doing illos, I'm doing illustrations, I got commissions, right? So, but if you're committed, I think I can crack it out in like 2 months a book, right? So I can get maybe 4 or 5 titles a year out. Okay, so the next question I have here is from Gabriela Martinez. Could you talk a little bit about your journey as an artist? When did you start? How did you learn? What else are you working on in addition to your books? Oh my God, Antonio can attest to this because Antonio and I were both artists. We went to music and art together, and I think we developed our chops in elementary and middle school. Yeah, Antonio and I went to elementary, middle school, and then we also went to high school for the majority. And yeah, we started young. We started just drawing and creating art and all that stuff from that start. And then I went off to art school, college art school, and I think Antonio also went off to college. and to study art. But we've been doing art all along. As far as becoming professional at it, I guess professional and doing it, doing books specifically and illos to sell and to be out there and to promote yourself, right? That started more like when I was in my early 30s. Like I said, I've been doing art ideas that I had in my archives and all this stuff. Finally, I was like, I'm going to go out and start pushing and peddling my wares, and a good place to start back then was at conventions. Now it's prohibitive because we're in the pandemic, but I love conventioning. I was scared out of my skull in the beginning, but conventioning was a good way to get yourself out there and put yourself out in the public's eye and get confidence in your work and get feedback. I even, two of the people that really helped me along were Javier Hernandez, who is actually a good friend of mine today, and he's one of the co-founders of the Latino Comic Expo. So he was a huge a part of my coming into the fray and starting to publish and put my work out there. And so did Keith Knight. Keith Knight is a cartoonist. He's got the K Chrono, so Keith Knight. And he's also got a TV show now. He just worked at it. Okay, he got the TV show, and he got Woke right on Hulu that just came out last week or something. I sat with him like in a bar one night. He's like, I got this idea. He would talk to me about it, and I was like, yeah, Keith, yeah, keep dreaming. But he did it. He's up there, right? Amazing. So you get to meet people along the way, and it's really fantastic. So if you haven't seen Woke on Hulu, check it out. It's a buddy of mine. He wears a hat just like this. Let's see. Someone went to music and art. That's awesome. Gabby, you went to music and art? Oh, to LA. I went to LA music and art too. Awesome. Yeah. So this question is from Juanita Trujillo. Loved your presentation. If a retail shop wants to purchase your books wholesale, do they contact Amazon, you, or the publishing company on the cover? How does that work? Yeah, usually what happens is they'll contact me, and I can get the books wholesale from Amazon. I can buy them, right? That's how I get my product, right? You have an author, right? If we went through more of the process, I could actually do the button where you author's price, so they give you the author's price. You get a different price when you go on Amazon. And I set up that price. Me and Amazon, like how much do you want to charge? You get a little bit more, right? Depending. The color books, I have to charge a little bit more, right? That's why 24 pages. The dinosaur book is 64 pages in full color, so I have to charge a little bit more for that. That's when like Scholastic could take on the brunt of that printing, right? But yeah, so a lot of stores will buy wholesale from me, and I know Libros Mobile. They're on Instagram. They're awesome. They buy books from me. The local stores, I go around local stores and sell them to them at wholesale. I get a little bit of a profit. It's not a huge margin, right? When you're publishing, that's why you want to get the TV show like Keith Knight, because you get the big bucks then, right? But books are not going to make you rich, right? Unless you're like J.K. Rowling, right? Let's see. How long did it? So the next question, I hope I answered that. But yeah, people do buy it, and they'll buy it. You buy it and then you sell it to them. So Betsaida Cervantes, I hope I pronounced that right. Great work. How long did it take you to illustrate? The illustrations, like let's say the Bunny Nadia, I flesh that out really quickly and ink it. It could take me a few hours just to do a page, right? Getting it right is where it takes the most time, like getting it right, getting the rhythm, getting the story right in those panels. The inking part comes a lot faster, a lot easier, right? It's a lot because you're doing 24 pages and you're trying to get the ink right. And I'm a bit of, not a perfectionist, but I like getting it right, right? Okay, let's see. And if I didn't answer a question the way you wanted to, just ask again and say, give me more or something, because I can't hear y'all. And with the time that we have left, I really want to say that don't hesitate, do it. I mean, because if you just procrastinate, right, and you just like you don't have to get it right. You don't have to get it so beautiful, right? Like that it's perfect. Let's see, there's another question from Gabby. Are there any other illustrators or children's books that have inspired you? Absolutely, yeah. I mentioned Mo Willems. Mo Willems is hit the stratosphere, right? He's got an HBO special now, like a children's book author. I'm like, what? Like what? This is awesome, right? He's definitely Piggy and Elephant series are just amazing. Like we just eat those up. So Rhodey's a big inspiration to me. You know, like obviously I like Dr. Seuss stuff, right? Those are amazing. So yeah, I'm getting a message from Mola that we're almost done. Yeah, so go to my social websites, right? Let me see if I share real quick so you guys can know where to go. So down at, oh, sorry about that, guys. The minutes that I have left. Let's see. Just josecabrera.com. You can see my illustrations. You can also check out my stuff at Up and Over Publishing, right? Up and Over Publishing. No, sorry, upandover.xyz. And I chose that one because it's about alphabet, right? The XYZ. I chose that that last that .com, right? Oh, thank you, Gabby. Yeah, and also let me just type in the other one is up and over dot xyz. That's where you can see all my books, and you know, like look at it, look at the format, look at the way it's set up, right? And don't be afraid to hit me up and say like, what are some more things that you would recommend as far as uh, like what are the helpful tips? Again, and keep working at it. Right? There's nothing that I believe that you could do anything that you want and you set your mind to. Just you got to work at it. You just got to work at it. You got to be disciplined and get in there day in and day out if you can, and dedicate time to it. I dedicate little tiny chunks on a daily, like half an hour in the morning, especially when I'm doing these elaborate illustrations. If you go to my Instagram account, you can see Art of José Cabrera, and you can see my illustrations if you haven't already. I put a lot of time and effort, and those I really get crazy about. But I'm seeing that the time is over. It's 3 o'clock. This was fun, guys. I'd love to follow up with more trainings and more stuff, and more workshops, and go into more details about character development and more of the real anal kind of like production values, right? Of like making sure that you get the crop rights mark, with DPI resolution. That's also my background too, like being production, right? I used to work for advertising companies and doing a lot of production, so I understand the value of getting the right DPI, what's called dot per resolution, right? Those. But anyway, thank you so much, everyone.